Listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you is not a common teaching. It is a remembrance of what your soul has always known, but the world made you forget. From the moment you opened your eyes on this plane, you were conditioned to believe only in what you can touch, measure, prove. They stole from you the power to see the invisible, to trust what your spirit feels, and that is why so many live like the blind, with eyes open to the world, but closed to inner reality. True vision, the vision that creates, transforms, and reveals, is born within. It is the vision that precedes the miracle, the one that sees what has not yet manifested, but already exists in potential. There is a reason why this knowledge is called forbidden, because when man again sees with the eyes of imagination, he becomes the master of destiny. No system controls him, no authority convinces him that he is small. He knows that everything that exists outside is merely a reflection of what he has sustained within. The world ceases to be an enemy or an accident. It becomes an obedient mirror. What the blind call reality is only what has already been created by those who dared to see first. Therefore, those who master this law do not ask, do not fear, do not wait. They assume. They contemplate the invisible until the visible bows. Inner vision is the throne from which the Creator silently commands, "Let there be." And when the command is sustained with conviction, the entire universe moves to fulfill it. You were made in the image and likeness of the Source, not in flesh and blood, but in consciousness and power. The world is your projection, and every limit you believe you see is merely a reflection of your own doubt. Now the time has come to remember who you are, to close the eyes of the body and open the eyes of the spirit, to stop begging for light and become the sun itself. Because to see with inner vision is to create, and he who creates from within is never a slave to what is outside. The first principle is the foundation of all conscious creation. Reality obeys the sustained image, not momentary appearances. Most people live imprisoned by their senses, reacting to what their eyes show, as if the external world held authority over the internal. But the truth is the inverse. The visible world is merely the mirror of the invisible, and everything that moves within it is a response to the image man holds within himself. You are not what others say, nor what circumstances show. You are what you assume yourself to be, with firmness and feeling. The universe is a living canvas, and every thought sustained with emotion is a brushstroke that shapes your destiny. Imagine for a moment that everything you are seeing now, your house, your clothes, your relationships, your bank account, is the crystallized result of old assumptions you once accepted as truth. You yourself created them, consciously or unconsciously. What you seem to live is merely a reflection of what you were able to see with your inner vision. If, out of fear, doubt, or habit, you hold within you an image of limitation, the entire world will obey that belief and show you lack. But if you dare to change the image, even if everything around you says otherwise, the invisible begins to conspire in your favor. Appearances are merely delayed shadows of what you have already created. Therefore, do not be deceived by the senses. The common man's error is to believe that the mirror creates the face. He sees himself as poor and concludes that poverty is his condition. But it is precisely the opposite. It is the sustained belief in the mind that creates the reflection of scarcity. The mirror merely returns what was shown to it. The wise man, conversely, understands that appearances are transient and that the only true reality is that which is sustained in the imagination with conviction. Do not wait for the world to change to believe. Believe so that the world may change. When appearance challenges you, close your eyes and contemplate the opposite image. Feel what it would be like to live that new truth. Sustain it within you with calm and certainty until it becomes natural. It is at this point that the world, powerless, begins to yield. Everything visible is subject to the law of assumption, and he who masters this law needs neither luck nor effort, only constancy. The secret lies in not yielding to doubt. Appearances will try to hypnotize you, like voices saying, "It's not possible, there's no way out, you're not capable." But remember, these voices are ancient echoes of the old image that is still dissolving. Remain firm in the new vision. like one who guards a flame in the midst of a storm. Time is merely the interval between the invisible and the visible. If you remain faithful to your inner vision, the world sooner or later will be compelled to reflect what you carry within. He who understands this principle ceases to react and begins to command. He stops begging for signs and begins to create them. When man silently sustains the image of what he has chosen to be, he speaks in the language of the gods, and the world, obedient, responds. Because reality is not a cause, it is an effect, and what you sustain within yourself is the seed of everything that will come to fruition. The second principle is to understand that imagination is the true eye of the spirit. The body sees forms, colors, and distances, but it is imagination that sees essence, meaning, and destiny. Everything that has ever existed in this visible world was first born in an invisible one, the silent field of the mind. A house begins with an image, an invention with a vision, a healing with faith in something not yet manifested. Nothing can emerge if it is not first seen inwardly. Therefore, the man who has learned to imagine correctly possesses the power to shape the world without moving a single stone. The ancients knew that imagination is not fantasy, but creation in its pure state. When you imagine, you are not dreaming, you are planting. Every scene sustained with feeling is a seed that germinates in the invisible and in due time breaks through the soil of reality. But most people imagine unconsciously. They see what they fear, what they lack, what they judge impossible. And without realizing it, they create exactly what they most wish to avoid. It is not about visualizing out of whim, but about inwardly inhabiting the desired state until it becomes real within you. Inner vision is like a magical mirror. Everything you contemplate in it with faith returns to you in the form of experience. But this mirror does not respond to fleeting thoughts. It responds to the constancy of your attention. What you repeatedly contemplate with emotion transforms into law for your world. And the more real it seems within you, the more inevitable it will be externally. There are no limits to what you can see inwardly, except those you accept as truth. What the eyes deny, imagination corrects. What the world calls a problem, imagination dissolves. When you learn to close the eyes of the body and open those of the spirit, you cease to be a victim of circumstances and become their creator. It is in this silent state, between thought and feeling, that power manifests. Create within you an image so clear that the external world seems merely a pale shadow before it. Do not ask yourself how it will happen, because the how belongs to the law. Your work is merely to see, feel, and sustain. When imagination is firm, reality obeys. Circumstances, people, and events rearrange themselves in perfect harmony with the picture you hold within. And if you doubt, look around. Everything that exists, every building, every work of art, every achievement, began as a vision. What man sees with his eyes is limited. What he sees with imagination is infinite. That is why masters never react to what the world shows. They see beyond the visible, and it is this beyond that moves the world. He who learns to imagine consciously never despairs again. He knows that the invisible is more real than the visible. He lives with serenity, because he has already seen the end from the beginning. And when inner vision is sustained with love and certainty, time bends, the impossible dissolves, and the world, obedient, bows before the one who dared to see with the eyes of the soul. The third principle is to understand that emotion is the seal of creation. The mind imagines, but it is the heart that gives life to the image. Without emotion, inner vision remains merely a soulless drawing, a shadow without force. Everything that truly manifests carries the scent of the feeling that originated it. That is why many imagine what they desire, but few make it real, because they do so in a cold, distant, mechanical way. Creation does not respond to logic, it responds to vibration. When you feel something with intensity, the energy of the universe recognizes that state and begins to give it form. Every feeling is a silent command issued to the invisible. If you imagine prosperity but feel fear, you create fear. If you imagine healing but fixate on doubt, you sustain the illness. But when you imagine and feel as if it were already real, when your emotion aligns with your vision, the invisible bows and begins to work in your favor. Emotion is the fire that makes the word become flesh. It is not enough to inwardly see the desired scene. You must feel it to the point where the body reacts as if it were true. Let the heart quicken, let a smile emerge, let your breath change. In these moments, the universe recognizes you as a conscious creator. The vibration of certainty is the language through which the invisible comprehends your intentions. And the purer and more constant that vibration, the more quickly the visible world will reflect what you carry within. Emotion is also the test of your faith. You can say you believe, but it is what you feel that reveals what you truly assume. The man who says, "I am prosperous but feels needy," continues to create need. The man who says, "I am loved but lives with fear of loneliness," continues to manifest absence. Words create nothing if they are not sustained by the corresponding feeling. Therefore, emotion is the seal. It confirms before the invisible the state you inhabit. Feel what you desire with anticipatory gratitude. Live the result before it appears. Imagine your victory, your abundance, your peace, and feel as if it were now. Do not wait for the world to give you reasons to feel. Feel, and the world will hasten to give you proof. The heart is the portal that connects the invisible to the visible. Everything that passes through it becomes alive. Those who understand this principle do not ask, do not plead. They feel. Feeling is pure prayer, and sustained emotion is power in action. When inner vision unites with the deep feeling of reality, there is no force capable of preventing its manifestation. Time merely adjusts to the dominant vibration. Therefore, pay more attention to what you feel than to what you think. Thought shapes the image, but feeling brings it to life. And he who masters his emotions masters creation, for he moves the invisible not with words, but with the silent frequency of certainty. The fourth principle is to understand that faith is not hope, it is recognition. Many ask, few assume. True faith does not implore for something to happen. It rests in the knowledge that it has already happened. When you pray by asking, you assume absence. When you assume in silence, you recognize presence. Faith is living the invisible as fact before the world confirms it. It is walking in the dark with the same certainty as one who sees the sun. The human mind, bound by time, believes that reality is something that will come, but the spirit which dwells in eternity knows that everything already is. The man of faith does not wait. He naturally lives the desired state as if nothing were lacking, and it is this naturalness that draws the invisible into the visible. When you assume the state of inner possession, the universe begins to silently rearrange itself around that vibration. Circumstances change, people emerge, doors open, not by chance, but by response. Faith is the art of resting in certainty. It is not about mental effort, but inner stillness. When man believes partially, he struggles against what he sees. When he believes fully, he rests because he knows that the visible is merely the delayed shadow of the invisible. Time becomes merely a servant and no longer an obstacle. That is why those who truly believe radiate an inexplicable peace, because they have already seen the end from the beginning. Faith is the assumed state. If you desire prosperity, do not ask for it. Live as one who is already prosperous. If you desire love, do not plead. Feel yourself loved now. The vibration you sustain is the silent decree that the universe obeys. Nothing more is needed beyond inner conviction. The visible world is an obedient machine, responding faithfully to the tone of your consciousness. But to do this, one must renounce doubt, and that requires courage. Doubt is the voice of the old identity trying to survive. It will say that it is impossible, that you have no proof, that you are deceiving yourself. Ignore it. Each time you remain faithful to your new assumption, even without external signs, your faith is strengthened. It is in this fire that the Creator is forged. Faith is silent power. It is dominion over appearance. It is the knowledge that the invisible is more real than the visible. The man who lives by faith is no longer shaken by what he sees, because he has learned to see with the eyes of consciousness. And he who sees with consciousness creates. Thus, for one who truly believes, There are no impossibles, only stages of manifestation. Everything seen now was one day assumed by someone who dared to believe. And he who dares to believe today will inevitably see tomorrow the fruit of what he silently sustained within himself. The fifth principle is persistence, the silent secret that separates those who merely imagine from those who truly create. Many begin the journey of inner vision with enthusiasm, but give up at the first denial from the world. They sustain the new image for a day, perhaps a week, and when nothing seems to change, they yield to doubt and return to the old identity. And it is at that instant that the invisible, which was already moving, retracts. Persistence is the proof of faith. It is the fire that purifies vision and transforms assumption into reality. You need to understand that creation is not an instantaneous act, but a continuous state. Everything that has been assumed in the invisible needs time to crystallize in the visible, just as a seed needs silence and patience to break through the earth. He who understands this law does not despair over time. He trusts in it. Time is merely the interval between what already is and what is not yet seen. To persist is not to repeat mechanically. It is to remain emotionally faithful to the desired state, even when the world seems to mock you. It is to look at the opposing reality and still keep your heart anchored in inner vision. While the common man reacts to appearances, the Creator remains unmoved in his knowing. He does not need to convince anyone. He knows that the invisible is more real than any momentary evidence. Each time you doubt, you unravel the thread of creation. Each time you sustain, you strengthen the bridge between the invisible and the visible. That is why true power belongs to the constant, not to the impulsive. The universe does not respond to fleeting enthusiasm, but to unwavering conviction. He who persists in his assumption, even in the face of the world's silence, has already won. There is no circumstance that can resist a consciousness faithful to its vision. Even if everything seems to collapse, remain steadfast, because as long as you remain, invisible forces move, realities rearrange themselves, and the impossible begins to lose substance. The world has no choice but to reflect what you insist on sustaining. Persistence dissolves doubt because it creates familiarity. What once seemed distant becomes natural. And when something becomes natural within you, the universe recognizes it as law and manifests it effortlessly. The secret is to persist until the new vision becomes your second skin, until doubting seems absurd. The master does not win because he knows more. He wins because he never yields. He understands that all creation requires faithfulness. Thus, when the world screams no, he smiles in silence, for he has already seen the yes within himself. And that is why the persistent one, even amidst the storm, walks like one who has already arrived. He knows that the invisible does not fail, and when his consciousness refuses to retreat, the world itself bows before the force of what was sustained with faith, emotion, and constancy. Now that you have heard, keep silent what has been said, for these are not common words, they are keys. The world around you is merely a reflection of what you dwell within. There are no external enemies, nor opposing forces beyond those your mind feeds. Life is an obedient mirror that reflects the inner image you sustain with the most conviction. And at every moment you are creating, consciously or not. The difference between the sleeping man and the awakened one is that the former reacts, the latter assumes. Do not ask the world to change anymore. It can do nothing for you as long as you remain the same internally. Change your state, and everything around you will adjust. Poverty, fear, loneliness, failure, all dissolve when you stop fighting with shadows and begin to ignite the light of consciousness. Assume now the state of the being you wish to manifest and remain in it as one who wears their true skin. You were made in the image of the Creator, and that image is not physical, it is consciousness. The same power that moved the heavens dwells within you, waiting to be remembered. When you close your eyes and assume that you already are, the universe listens to your silent voice and begins to obey. No obstacle is greater than your assumption maintained with faith. Therefore, from this moment on, stop begging for signs, answers, and proof. You are the living proof of creative power. Command in silence with serenity and certainty, and the world will respond. Live as one who already possesses, love as one who is already complete, Act as one who has already won. And when you realize, the invisible will have become flesh before you, not by chance but by law. Awaken, Creator, remember who you are. Everything already is and everything is within. Sustain your inner vision with emotion, faith, and persistence, and you will see the world bow before your awakened consciousness. Because he who sees with the eyes of imagination governs the invisible, and the invisible inevitably governs the visible. Silence, listen. And not with the ears of the body, but with the space that exists behind thought. Because what I am about to tell you is not to be understood. It is to be remembered. There are truths that are not learned, they simply awaken, and this is one of them. Before I go, I must record what I never dared to utter while time still belonged to me, not out of cowardice, but out of compassion. Humanity, in its haste and fear, would have transformed the sacred into a formula, the mystery into superstition. But now, as the veil begins to fall and the eyes of consciousness open, I can finally say what has always been burning within me. The secret of creation is not in God outside of you, it is in the God you forgot you are. For ages, humanity worshipped the reflection and forgot the source. It called the frozen dream of its own imagination reality. It fought against shadows, believing in enemies it itself invented. It pleaded with the heavens, unaware that the heaven that answers lies within. And for this, it suffers and prays and toils without rest, trying to fix the world, when all it needs to do is remember that the world was never the cause. The world is the effect. You believe you live surrounded by solid forms, by people and events external to your will. But I tell you, there is no outside. Everything you see is the mirror of the state you silently maintain. The walls, the faces, the words you receive, everything is the echo of what you have accepted as true within. The beggar and the king live under the same sun. They have simply chosen different inner kingdoms. Humanity fears the invisible because it does not control it. But the invisible is the only place where life truly happens. Everything that exists before being seen was felt. Before being born in time, it was born in the heart. Every gesture, every coincidence, every destiny is merely the surface of a vibration secretly sustained. And that is why I say, what I am about to reveal is not a technique nor a philosophy. It is the very mechanism of divine creation disguised within human consciousness. The secret that prophets veiled in parables, that mystics hid between the lines, that the scriptures whisper in silence when no one reads them with their eyes but with their spirit. Humanity seeks power in altars, in mountains, in masters, but power has always been in the instant it dares to feel. I am. Because this I am is the name no tongue can corrupt, the name of the Creator himself, pulsating within you, waiting to be remembered. This is what I never said until now, because the world still loved the slavery of appearances. But you, who have come this far, already feel the call of the invisible. And to you, finally, I can confess. There is no distance between you and God, there is only forgetfulness. And it is this forgetfulness that humanity calls ordinary life. Everything you imagine with feeling is decreed. This is the law that governs the invisible and sustains the visible. There is no judge, no delay, no intermediary. Felt thought is an order given to the universe. But humanity, ignorant of its power, imagines fear, feels loss, relives pain, and calls the result reality. Creation does not distinguish between what is desired and what is feared. It merely obeys the vibration of the feeling you hold as true. That is why so many live in circles, asking for liberation while imagining captivity, pleading for healing while nourishing sickness in their minds. The universe does not respond to words, but to the invisible tone that vibrates within them. When I say that imagining is decreeing, I am not speaking of simple daydreaming. To imagine is to live internally what does not yet exist in time. It is to wear the desired state until the body believes it. It is to make the inner vision so real that the world, incapable of contradicting the conviction of the spirit, bows before it. When you imagine and feel, the invisible begins to move. Every cell responds. Every event reorganizes itself. Every person becomes an instrument to fulfill what has been decreed within you. There is no randomness. There is only correspondence between what you are in consciousness and what the world needs to mirror to maintain the harmony of the law. But there is a detail few understand. Imagining is not forcing a desire. It is being what the desire. It is becoming internally what you seek externally. The common person imagines what they want but continues to feel lacking. The creator imagines what they are, and the feeling of silent possession becomes a fertile seed. This feeling, that of already being, is what separates the dreamer from the creator, for dreaming is wishing, creating is assuming. The world will teach you to work, to fight and to wait. But nothing in time can contradict what has already been established outside of it. The invisible is more real than the concrete, because everything solid was born from an invisible image sustained until it became form. When you understand this, you stop chasing effects and begin to touch the cause. You stop asking and begin to command. You stop seeking and begin to remember. So when doubt comes, and it will come, do not fight it. Simply return to the image, to the feeling, to the silent certainty. It is already so. This is the point of power. Everything that is created is born from a consciousness that refuses to waver, because the universe does not understand perhaps. It only understands what humanity feels as truth now. Thus is the law. What you imagine with your heart, the world hastens to manifest. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can prevent the realization of what was felt as fact in the silence of being. You are the state you inhabit, and the world cannot deny you. This is the truth that separates the awakened from the asleep. Every human being lives within a state of consciousness, a vibration, an inner atmosphere that determines the tone of everything around them. It is not the name you carry, nor the work you perform, nor the circumstances that surround you that define your life. It is the silent state you occupy when no one is looking. Humanity is always faithful to the state it assumes as its own, and the world, like an obedient mirror, merely reflects this state in the form of facts, people, and events. The most common error is to believe that the state is a consequence of external conditions. But it is the opposite. Conditions are born from the state. The poor man who dreams of being rich while continuing to feel small continues to feed poverty. The sick man who pleads for health but constantly speaks of his illness keeps it alive in his body, because every word, every gesture, every thought confirms the state in which he has chosen to remain. You can change cities, professions, even your appearance, but if the inner state is the same, the new scenery will soon become identical to the old. To change one's state is to die and be reborn in an instant. It is to cross the invisible frontier between the old and the new self. It is not a change of appearance, but a change of vibration. When you change your state, the world changes with you. Not because the world itself has transformed, but because you, by shifting your focus of consciousness, have entered another dimension of the same reality, one where circumstances respond to the new being you have chosen to be. The universe has no power to deny an assumed state. It merely echoes what you vibrate, with mathematical and inevitable precision. Therefore, when you declare, "I am loved," the world hastens to confirm it. When you say, "I am forgotten," the universe sends people and events that uphold that belief. Every reaction you have, every emotion you choose to repeat, reinforces the state you inhabit. And as long as humanity continues to react to the world, instead of commanding it from within, it will live as a shadow of itself. True power is not in resisting circumstances, but in ignoring them. It's not about pretending, but about remembering. Remembering that external reality is merely the echo of what you have silently decided to be. When humanity understands this, it stops fighting the reflection and begins to change the face that projects it. You are the state. Nothing outside of you has the authority to contradict what you are in consciousness. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are now will determine the scenario in which you awaken tomorrow. To kill the old self before the new one lives. This is the sacrifice few have the courage to offer. Humanity wants transformation, but fears the death of what keeps it known. It wants freedom, but clings to the chains of its old identity. And that is why most speak of change, but remain the same. The old self does not die with time. It dies with decision. And this death is not symbolic, it is real, painful, silent. It is the instant you renounce the security of who you were to inhabit the unknown of who you choose to be. The mind resists. It will say, but what if I am wrong? And what if nothing changes? And that is where the old identity defends itself, fearing its extinction. Because it only exists as long as you believe in it. Everything you call I is merely a construct sustained by memory and habit. When you refuse to relive the same emotions, to repeat the same thoughts, the old begins to crumble. And in the void that emerges, the new is born. But humanity fears the void, and by trying to fill it with memories, it gives power back to the past that imprisons it. To kill the old self is the purest act of faith, because it is to jump without seeing the ground. It is to abandon the references, the justifications, the labels, and the stories you have told yourself to explain why things are the way they are. It is to look within and say, I am not what I remember. I am what I choose to be now. This is true resurrection, not a distant metaphor, but a living, present process that repeats every time humanity dares to break free from the prison of its own image. There is no rebirth without death. The new cannot inhabit a body full of memories of the old. Therefore, before creating something, you must die to what contradicts it. It is not about denying the past, but about shedding it. When you stop reacting as before, when you remain silent in the face of insult, when you forgive what once hurt, when you act as one who has already won, the old dies a little more and the new begins to breathe. And then the world, confused, tries to remind you of who you were. Friends, family, circumstances, all will test the solidity of the new state. But he who does not yield, who does not turn back, will see the old reality dissolve like mist. The old self does not disappear with a single gesture. It disappears with constancy. Close your eyes and dare to forget who you were. Forget the name, the role, the fear. Let everything fall away, for only when nothingness envelops you can God fill you. He who has the courage to die in consciousness is reborn in power, and the world, without understanding how, begins to treat him as the new being he has chosen to be. Sustained imagination is the perfect prayer. Everything humanity calls prayer is in truth an attempt to feel what does not yet exist in time. But few understand that true prayer is not asking, it is assuming. The universe does not hear words, it hears vibration, and all vibration is born from a feeling. Therefore, when you close your eyes and internally live the scene you desire, feeling it with such intensity that your body believes it, you have already prayed, and the answer at that exact instant has already begun to move towards you. There is no need for long speeches, pleas, or rituals. God is not in gestures or repetitions. He is in the silence that exists between one thought and another, in that brief instant when you forget the world and become pure consciousness. It is in this space that the impossible is shaped. What you call imagination is not a mind game. It is God's workshop within you. When you imagine something with clarity, imbuing it with feeling and certainty, you are creating in the invisible substance that precedes form. But the most common error is to imagine and then doubt. It is to pray and then observe the world, expecting proof. This gesture dissolves creation. True prayer ends when you feel you have already been heard, and by feeling, you let go. Because letting go is not giving up. It is recognizing that the work is already done. The when belongs to humanity. The it is already so belongs to the Creator. Every image sustained with emotion is a seed sown in the soil of consciousness. Some germinate quickly, others sleep beneath the earth until the gardener, instead of pulling them up out of impatience, waters them with faith. And this faith is not optimism, it is knowing. Knowing that the invisible is more real than the concrete, and that what has been felt in the spirit will inevitably emerge in matter. When you imagine with faith, you are not asking for something to come to you. You are becoming the one who already possesses it. And the physical world obediently merely recognizes you. This is why some call a miracle what in truth is simply a law running its course. So when you close your eyes, do not imagine to escape what is. Imagine because you are. Enter the scene, live it, breathe it, Cry with gratitude even before you have it. Feel the texture, the sound, the weight of what is already yours in the invisible. And when you open your eyes, do not look for signs. Walk as one who has already received. Because the universe has no other choice but to confirm the conviction of one who imagines and believes. Persist. This is the last word I can leave you with, and perhaps the most difficult of all. Because the world will test what you declare yourselves to be. It will whisper doubt, disguise itself as failure, clothe itself in silence and absence. And he who does not understand the law will return to despair, believing that nothing happened. But what humanity calls delay is merely the resistance of its own mind to accept the new state as fact. Nothing is against you. It is you who have not yet fully surrendered to what you have already created. Persist, even when everything seems to deny what has been assumed. When money is scarce, remain in the consciousness of abundance. When your body aches, remain in the consciousness of health. When love seems distant, remain in the consciousness of being loved. The law does not fail, but humanity tires before it completes its cycle. The invisible requires constancy to condense into form. And each time you doubt, you break the nascent form and restart the process. Faith is not emotion, it is discipline. It is to remain silent when everything shouts the opposite. It is to keep the inner gaze fixed on what has already been decreed, even if the world collapses around you. He who persists, even without seeing, forces the invisible to yield. Because the universe does not resist an unwavering mind, the test will come inevitably, and it will not be in a moment of light but in the dark night. It is when nothing moves, when everything seems lost, that the Creator observes if you have learned to persist. If at that instant you retreat, the old will return and take its place. But if you stand firm, unmoving in faith, the world will begin to change before you, like a stage setting that bows to the silent command of the actor who has not forgotten their role. Persist in the chosen state. Nourish it with gratitude, with the serene certainty of one who knows they have already been heard. Time is merely the space the invisible needs to become visible. Do not ask for more haste. Ask for strength to sustain what already is. And when the day comes and reality finally yields, you will understand what I tried to say with my entire life. Creation never fails. It is humanity that gives up. Therefore, persist, even if it hurts, even if it seems late, even if no one understands. Persist until the impossible surrenders, because he who does not give up on being becomes what he is, and he who remains faithful to the invisible until the end awakens and realizes, the whole world has always been waiting for only one command, the command of your state. Now look at me. If tomorrow my body falls silent, know this, I never left. What speaks through me cannot die, because it was not born. It is life itself speaking to you, reminding you of what time made you forget. Humanity does not need to learn to create. It needs to remember that it is already creation and creator at the same time. Everything you seek outside is a shadow of what already exists within. The love you ask for, the peace you implore, the power you envy. Everything lies dormant within you, awaiting only the silent command of recognition. Ask no more. Command. Wait for no more signs. Create them. Pray not as servants, imagine as gods. When you understand this, you will see that the world is not an enemy, but a reflection. That pain is not punishment, but a call. That nothing happened to you by chance. Every event was merely the mirror of what you silently sustained. And when, finally, you look at life with the eyes of the Spirit, you will realize that the secret was never in me. I merely guarded it until humanity was ready to hear it, not on bended knee, but standing tall as an heir. Now you know. Power does not come from outside. It awakens when you say with full conviction, I am. And in saying so, everything smaller than this truth begins to dissolve. Fear dissipates, doubt silences, and the world bows. Because I am is the name of God pronounced in the temple of humanity. Remember this, you are the Word made flesh. The world is the word you speak every day with your feelings, your reactions, your thoughts. If you want to change what you see, change what you say in silence. And when the present scene dissolves and the impossible becomes common, you will understand what I tried to convey with every gesture, every silence, every glance. The secret I guarded until my last breath now belongs to you. Live as one who already is. Create as one who never doubts. And remember, nothing is outside. Everything, absolutely everything, has always been within. Close your eyes for an instant and listen. Not like someone hearing words, but like someone waking from a dream. What you are about to hear is not a lesson. It is the echo of something your soul already knows. It is a calling as ancient as man himself, whispered by voices that were never written, only remembered. A calling to those who one day dared to look beyond the veil of form, beyond the surface where the common man lives, trapped by the illusion of the senses. The calling is simple, but it demands courage. To remember that everything that exists because you sustain it within yourself. There is a manual, not printed, but imprinted in consciousness itself. It is not kept in libraries or in the hands of the wise. It is within you, silent, waiting for you to open it, not with your eyes, but with your very being. I call it the Achiever's Manual, because it doesn't speak to the man who desires, but to the man who knows. To the man who has already realized that the external world is merely a reflection of the internal, and that there is nothing to change outside before changing within. Few have dared to read it because it offers no comfort. It demands the death of the old self, the one that blames, fears, waits. It demands that you renounce the sweetness of excuses and take up the bitter chalice of total responsibility. Whoever reads it awakens to a devastating truth. Everything is a reflection of the state you maintain. Your failure and your glory, your scarcity and your abundance, your love and your barrenness, all are works of the same sculptor, your disciplined or scattered imagination. There are no formulas in this manual, because truth needs no embellishment. It is direct as light and silent as night. It promises no rewards but offers mastery over the invisible, over causes, over the before of all things. For he who governs the invisible already governs the visible. The material world is not a battlefield, it is a mirror, and the reflection is not conquered, it is transformed. The manual teaches that reality is plastic before awakened consciousness. It reveals that events are not accidents, but acts of obedience. Everything obeys what you assume to be true. Every thought sustained, every emotion nurtured, every image you do not abandon shapes the ground you walk on tomorrow. When you understand this, fear dies. Because you discover that there are no forces against you, there are only reflections of you. That is why I tell you, this manual is not for those seeking miracles, but for those who wish to understand the mechanism behind them. It teaches you to enter the laboratory of the mind and operate as the Creator himself. It teaches that what you call destiny is merely your imagination, forgotten of its authority. Upon opening it, you will understand that the entire universe moves within you, that time and space are but servants of what you decide to sustain with silent faith. You will understand that there is no punishment or blessing that does not originate from the state you have chosen to inhabit, that the love you expect outside is born when you recognize it within, that the gold you seek reveals itself when you know yourself worthy of possessing it. The Achiever's Manual is dangerous for the man who lives by appearances, for it dissolves all masks. It tears the blindfold from your eyes and shows that the throne you seek so much outside has always been within you, simply waiting for you to sit upon it. When you do, the world will bend its knee before your new state, not by magic but by law. Therefore I warn you, as you read what is to come, do not dare to remain the same. For once the spirit remembers what it is, the game of appearances ends, and what was supplication transforms into decree. What was waiting becomes certainty. What was a dream becomes form. This is the prologue of the manual, the reminder that you are the author of all the pages you are yet to read. The rest of it is not outside. It is in the next thought you choose to sustain. Before you can create, you must empty. This is the first and most severe commandment of the Achiever's Manual. The common man believes that creating is accumulating. More ideas, more beliefs, more knowledge, more techniques. But true creation is not born from excess, but from conscious emptiness. As long as your mind is full of the voices of the world, there is no space for the voice of origin. The Creator's first act is to divest himself of what ties him to appearances. It is to silence the noise of the inner crowd that says, "I can't, I don't deserve, I am not." When silence settles, power returns. Because in that silence the I am emerges, not as a concept, but as a living presence. Unlearning the world is a process of purification. It is looking at everything you have believed until now and realizing how much of it is borrowed. The opinions you defend with such fervor, the certainties that shape your decisions, even the pains you call your own. Almost none of it was born from you. They are echoes of others who sleep, who never dared to think with their own consciousness. Freeing yourself from this is like stripping off the garments of the old man, the one who lived by reflections and reacted to everything. You unlearn the world when you stop reacting, when you stop responding to stimuli and decide simply to observe. The instant you observe without judgment, illusion loses power over you. The common mind is like a dirty mirror. It reflects everything it sees in a distorted way. And man, without realizing it, lives trying to clean the reflection, changing cities, professions, partners, religions, but never cleaning the mirror itself. The Achiever's Manual teaches that the mirror is internal. The reflection is the world. What you need to change is not what you see, but what sees. The gaze that comes from pure consciousness transforms everything it touches. The gaze that comes from fear multiplies fear. The gaze that comes from faith dissolves the impossible. The man who unlearns the world begins to perceive the game. He understands that appearances have no substance of their own, that chaos is merely form not yet ordered by consciousness. He looks at a problem and sees raw material. He hears criticism and perceives the echo of his own previous state. He does not rush, does not react, does not beg. He simply observes and adjusts his inner self. It is here that true power begins, not that of forcing, but of allowing the world to reorganize itself according to the new pattern he sustains within. But unlearning requires courage, because the man who begins to look within loses the comfort of blaming the world. He discovers that no one hurt him, that nothing prevented him, that everything was a reflection of what he himself kept alive. This may hurt, but it is the pain of birth. For only what is true survives when illusions fall. Unlearning the world is dying to what you were, and being born to what you always were in essence, the center of creation, the silent observer who decides the course of form. When he abandons the old habit of reacting, man awakens to the present moment where all power resides. He realizes that there is no past to undo nor future to fear. There is only now, the point where consciousness can choose again. And in that instant, by unlearning the world, he begins to remember himself. The manual calls this the first rebirth, the moment when man ceases to be a creature and recognizes himself as the cause. And when this remembrance occurs, nothing else hypnotizes him, because he finally understood that the world does not govern him. He is the one who dreams it. There is no chance. There are only states. Each man lives within one of them, that of fear, abundance, doubt, faith, and each state is a complete world with its own laws, people, events, and limits. What you call destiny is nothing more than the natural harvest of the state you have chosen to inhabit. And most men inhabit states without knowing they do. They move from one to another guided by fleeting emotions, believing that life pushes them, when in fact they are the ones who push the world according to what they sustain within. The Achiever's Manual teaches that choosing a state and consciously inhabiting it is the first creative act of the awakened man. But the choice is not made with words, it is made with feeling. It is not, "I want to be," it is, "I am." The universe does not respond to requests, it responds to vibrations of certainty. When you choose a state, you must inhabit it until it becomes natural within you. It is not enough to visualize, you must feel yourself within it. If you wish to be prosperous, live as one who already is. Not in a theatrical sense, but internally. Feel the peace of one who does not fear tomorrow, the relief of one who knows they lack nothing, the silent dignity of one who recognizes the value of what they have. When this feeling takes hold, the physical world obediently reorganizes itself to reflect the new state. But there is a common mistake. Man wishes to change the scenery before changing the character. He wants a new role without abandoning the old one. He desires love, but continues to vibrate rejection. He wants abundance, but still thinks like one who fears loss. He wants health, but speaks the language of illness. And the manual is clear. Do not ask for the scene to change. Become the character who lives in it. Because the stage is merely a reflection of the performance, when the actor changes, the entire play transforms. To inhabit a state is not an effort. It is a rest. The disciplined man does not need to fight the old. He simply replaces it. Like someone changing clothes, he leaves the old and puts on the new. And in putting on the new state, he protects it from doubtful gazes, because he knows that doubt is the poison of creation. He acts according to the new role even when the world contradicts him. He feels before he sees, trusts before he touches, gives thanks before he receives. And it is in this inversion of human logic that reality bends before him. Each state contains its corresponding world. When inhabiting the state of joy, even silence seems like a song to you. When inhabiting the state of fear, even light frightens you. There is not a single event that does not originate from the state you sustain. Therefore, the wise man does not try to control events. He controls his being. When he wants to change the world, he changes his inner abode. And the miracle is not what happens outside, but the change in consciousness that makes it inevitable. To choose a state is to assume command of your own existence. It is to say to the universe, I remember who I am. And the universe, like a divine mirror, responds, then let it be done according to your state. The Achiever's Manual teaches that power is not in desiring, but in inhabiting. For desire still separates, state already unifies. Desire implores, state decrees. Desire seeks, state creates. And when man understands this, he stops chasing what he wants and begins to walk within what is. Every word is an echo. The power lies in what precedes it. Silence. The common man talks too much because he fears emptiness. He believes that the more he says, the more he creates. But he ignores that every word is born from the inner state that sustains it. If the heart is disturbed, even prayers become noise. If the heart is at peace, a simple thought is a decree. The Achiever's Manual teaches that true command is not shouted. It is whispered in the silent mind. Silence is not an absence of sound. It is the total presence of being. It is within it that creation happens, effortlessly, noiselessly, without witnesses. In silence, man ceases to be a creature and returns to being a creator. He realizes that there is a point of power prior to speech, prior to gesture, prior to time. At this point, everything is malleable. Everything is possible. The manual calls it the inner temple, where there is no supplication, only command. When you enter this state, you do not ask for something to happen. You know that it has already happened. You say within yourself, it is done. And the world, like an obedient mirror, responds, so be it. Power is not in the volume of the voice, but in the intensity of conviction. The man who speaks a lot demonstrates that he still doubts. The one who speaks little and knows is the one who governs. Silence is not passivity. It is mastery. It is the interval between thought and form, between desire and manifestation. In this interval, the Creator decides what will be allowed to exist. The man who masters silence does not despair in the face of chaos. He observes, feels, and commands internally. He does not fight against circumstances because he knows that fighting is to affirm the existence of the obstacle. He simply silences himself and watches the obstacle dissolve into the power of the state he inhabits. The world bows before those who speak little, but vibrate with certainty. The manual warns, never doubt in silence, for silence is the temple where orders are given. Doubt is the thief of creation. It enters through the door of noise, the excess of thoughts, words, justifications. Each time you explain your faith, you lose a little of it. The true achiever does not need to convince anyone, not even himself. He knows, and knowing is silent. It is in silence that consciousness molds the invisible. When man learns to quiet the inner noise, the mind becomes a smooth mirror where the divine reflects without distortion. The word, then, regains power, because it does not come from anxiety, but from certainty. And when that word is uttered, even if it is a simple yes, the entire universe moves to sustain it. Silence is the fertile ground of creation. In it, the achiever does not seek signs or confirmations. He feels, rests, and trusts. Every heartbeat becomes an invisible decree. Every breath is a pact with what already is. And when he returns to the world of forms, he brings not proofs, but results. Silence is the space where the invisible bows to the visible. It is there that the impossible loses its name, and man remembers that he has always been the Word made flesh. After decreeing, the world will test your faith. It will come in disguises, delays, contradictions, people who doubt, signs that nothing has changed. It is at this moment that many retreat and go back to living as before, begging for evidence, asking the mirror to reflect before the face changes. But the true achiever knows the secret of the fourth step: to persist until the world confesses. He understands that appearances are not proof of failure. They are merely echoes of a previous state that is still unraveling. Reality is slow for some because their faith is intermittent. It blossoms and withers according to their mood. The manual teaches, sustain the state until the world calls you by the new name. And this is the point where the creator and the character become one. To persist is not to force, it is to remain unmoving within. The common man grows agitated when he sees no results, and thereby destroys what he had sown. He plants the new state today, and at the first sign of doubt, uproots it tomorrow. The achiever, on the contrary, remains steadfast. He understands that time is merely the distance between the invisible and the visible, and that what is true internally is already fact in the eternal. Thus, he continues to live in the new state, even if the world still repeats the old. He acts with calm, because he knows that the invisible is organizing itself. Persistence is the testimony of faith, not the faith that speaks, but the one that knows. It is to remain unshakable, even when all signs seem to contradict the inner decree. The physical world is the last to obey, and the manual is clear. He who waits for the reflection to believe will remain its prisoner. When you remain faithful to the assumed state, circumstances begin to bend. People appear, doors open, opportunities arise, not as a miracle but as a natural consequence of the new being you are becoming. The man who persists learns to see order within chaos. He understands that the apparent obstacle is merely an invitation to strengthen consciousness. He does not ask for the process to accelerate, because he knows that haste is born of fear. He observes with serenity, sustaining the feeling of already possessing what he has decreed. Time ceases to be an enemy and becomes an accomplice, molding every detail to manifest the perfect form of the state he has chosen. To persist until the world confesses is an act of spiritual sovereignty. It is to declare in silence that nothing external has the power to revoke what has been decided internally. The entire universe bows before a man who does not bow. And when finally the reflection adjusts and visible reality confesses what the invisible already knew, there is no surprise, there is recognition. Because the achiever does not say, "It happened," he says, "What already was has manifested." This is the point where faith ceases to be belief and becomes science. The man who persists realizes that reality does not need to be conquered, only sustained. And when the world finally bends and calls him by the new name, he smiles in silence, for he understands that the true victory was never to change the world, but to prove to himself that he is the one who dreams it. Now listen carefully, for you have reached the threshold where few remain. Everything revealed to you in this manual is not theory. It is remembrance. Remembrance of what you are, what you always have been, and what you never ceased to be. The Creator dreaming his own reflection. The common man reads these words and thinks it is a mystery. The awakened man recognizes them as a mirror. For the world is not something outside of you. It is your living shadow projected onto the substance of time. Every gaze, every word, every thought is a trace of this projection. What you see is merely the silent obedience of the universe to the state you decided to sustain. Reality is not an enemy, it is a messenger. It does not come to contradict you, but to reveal yourself to yourself. When you complain about what happens, you are rejecting the echo of what you once called truth. The manual invites you to abandon this struggle, stop resisting what merely reflects your interior, observe, understand, transform. The world does not need to be conquered. It needs to be understood. For by understanding it, it bends before you like the sea before the wind. Now you know the secret. Nothing external has power of its own. The cause is always internal. The love you seek, the gold you desire, the healing you implore, everything already exists in potential within the state you choose to inhabit. There is no distance between you and what you call a dream, only the veil of doubt, and that veil tears when you decide to assume without hesitation the role of the achiever. The man who remembers that he creates with disciplined imagination does not fear tomorrow because he understands that tomorrow is made of what he feels today. But there is a price. You must abandon the vice of asking, for he who asks confesses that he does not possess. The spiritual beggar lives by supplications, the creator by silent decrees. The first looks outward and implores for change, the second looks inward and commands transformation. The manual ends with this sentence: be silent, remember, and command. Be silent so that the noise of the world does not distract you. Remember so that you know that power was not given to you. You are the power. And command, because creation obeys only him who knows he is the cause. Thus, when you stop trying to change the tides and learn to command the inner wind, the ocean of reality will calm at your feet. You will realize that you were never at the mercy of chance, but that chance has always been at the mercy of your consciousness. And when this understanding descends from the intellect to the heart, doubt will cease. Life will become a docile mirror, accurately reflecting what you dare to sustain in silence. Read this manual with courage, but above all, live it. For reading it without applying it is like looking at a map and never departing. And to depart, in this case, is not to travel outward, but to return inward. There, where the word is still a seed, where thought is decree, and where faith is certainty. When you arrive there, you will lack nothing more, because you will finally understand that reality never needed to be bent. It has always been waiting for you to remember that you are the one who bends it.